Welcome to 2 Hours No Traffic, a New York, Philadelphia sports podcast brought to you by Sideline Sports. We are your hosts. I'm Spen Harris. He's Philly Brandon. It is July 13th. We are in the midst of one of the most drama-filled NBA off seasons of all time, and it is centered around none other than the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant. Now, Brandon, you can knock the Nets for a lot of things in the past 20 years, mainly lack of winning playoff series, huge epic collapses that have set the franchise back years. But what you can't fault them for as of late is not being a talked about team, because I don't think they're more talked about than the Golden State Warriors right now. And the Warriors were your NBA champions last season. So give the Nets a lot of credit. They know how to stay in the tabloids.
Isn't there a good old saying, though, that, no news is good news? You don't hear about the Warriors because everything is all fine and dandy over there in more or less Oakland. The reason we're hearing about Brooklyn is that, it's a fire sale over there with star players trying to, skedaddle. Kyrie, KD, obviously the biggest news for one. Smaller side, Goran Dragic kind of came out this week and was like, not the most healthy atmosphere over there in Brooklyn. Didn't really feel like much of a team, which kind of lends to what a lot of people were kind of thinking, that Steve Nash may not have the best handle on things over there. I know you were kind of more of a Nash believer than I think a lot of Nets fans, but it's starting to look like maybe those personalities ended up being too much for him. Maybe having two top 50 guys at the same time was too much for a first timer. I don't know, but I tend to take Goran Dragic at his word. He's not usually somebody to kind of, fan the flames in his NBA career.
I don't think you're wrong. I think that Steve Nash has definitely underperformed. There are a lot of things that have led to this sort of, I don't want to call it a breakup, but let's call it a rough patch between Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and the Brooklyn Nets. You want to get into the nitty-gritty details of it all. Shout out to Scoopy Robinson. He's been doing some great reporting these last 2 weeks. There were some coaching hires and fires that I don't think Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were crazy about. Scoopy mentioned, that the Nets coaching staff is really white. Not a lot of, representation of black people on that coaching staff. And I think KD and Kyrie were a little perturbed by that based on the reports. Adam Harrington, a shooting coach for the Nets, fired, really close with Kevin Durant. I don't think he was happy about that decision. And I'm sure there are a ton of different and other, front office decisions that KD and Kyrie weren't crazy about. Obviously, the Nets and Kyrie not reaching an agreement on an extension probably wasn't KD's favorite thing in the world. So, I think Nash is just another sort of piece in this avalanche of shit that Kevin Durant has had to, deal with for the past few weeks with the Brooklyn Nets. And I think it got to a point where he was fed up, and that's why the trade request came out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just drama, which is ironic in a sense, given that the fact that KD kind of loves drama. I'm surprised that, that's why he wanted out. You always had that feeling that if Kyrie left, KD left. But then, the Kyrie trade rumors simmered out and he wasn't going to leave. And then I think KD decided, well, I'm going to leave anyway. I'm guessing he just lost faith in the franchise and he's trying to chase one more title before he calls it a day eventually. He is in his mid-30s at this point. It's just been a horrible managing of two-star players by Joe Tsai and Sean Marks. I want to like Joe Tsai's reasoning. I do. He comes across as just genuine, I want guys who want to be Brooklyn Nets. I want this, I want that. The guys you signed don't fit that mold. They were never going to. You can't ask Kyrie to be someone he's not. That's never going to be KD. You got two high maintenance stars. You needed to either bend to deal with that, or that was never going to work.
Yeah, I've been saying that for the longest time, since news that, the Nets were willing to lose KD and Kyrie came out. This is the bed that you made for yourself when you bring these two guys in. For you to try to stick up for your organization now and take back control of the franchise, that was the whole narrative from a few weeks ago. It just doesn't work like that, right? Like in
It
20
never has.
years, who are people going to remember? Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, or Joe Tsai and Sean Marks?
Unless Joe Tsai and Sean Marks find a way to win a title, it's obviously going to be Kyrie and KD.
Exactly.
And you think about the teams that have done, like the super teams that have done well, like the Boston Celtics. They didn't get along. Like Rondo hated most of them. Ray Allen had beef with the entire team. But no one got all high and mighty and tried to be like, well, look, we're either a team or nothing. Like, you swallow your pride, you deal with it, you get your title, and then you move on. Same thing. Every team LeBron goes to. You don't know who's in the front office, rarely. The coaching staff doesn't matter. You bring these guys in, and that's LeBron's team now. Just like KD's earned that too. He comes to Brooklyn. This is Kevin Durant's team now. If he wants it to happen, you let it happen, and you live with those results. I think as soon as they tried to, like you said, take back the team, they almost tried to recapture that. And tell me if I'm completely wrong here, but it seems like Joe Tsai is kind of longing for the D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie days. Like, the vibe around that team is what he's trying to bring back, but it's a completely different set of circumstances right now.
Yeah, it's a good point. They trade for Royce O'Neal. They get TJ Warren, two guys that want to prove themselves in different situations, but two guys that are going to be, team players and sort of do what management says and not cause an uproar about anything. I think it's very interesting how the Nets have sort of played this since KD made the request. The reports are he made the call to Joe Tsai or Sean Marks, said he wanted a trade. And I think the Nets were just like, okay, yeah, let's make it happen. Like, there was no pushback. There was no like, nah, you're our guy. He made the call. And it was almost like, oh, you want to break up? Yeah. All right, fine. Let's date other people. What the Nets didn't count for is the market not being super great for a 34-year-old, really good player. He's an elite. He's a superstar. I think he's still a top 5 player when he's healthy, but he's missed a lot of time. He's not as young as he used to be. He has shown these past 2 seasons it isn't easy to carry a team by yourself or with Kyrie Irving, James Harden. It's hard when you are the last guy standing and everyone looks to you to hit that final shot. He almost pulled it off against Milwaukee 2 years ago. He was not close against the Celtics this year. And I think that, teams around the league are looking at Kevin Durant and they're saying, could we use KD? Of course we could use KD. What team couldn't use KD? Do we want to mortgage our entire future, trade the Scotty Barneses, the DeAndre Aytons, the Donovan Mitchells, trade these young, rising stars for an aging, injury-prone 34-year-old Kevin Durant? I don't think we want to do that. And I don't think that the Nets accounted for that reaction. And now they're in this awkward position where they didn't get a trade they liked, not even remotely close. Kyrie Irving's come out and said he wants to return. He's going to play for the Nets. He already opted in his player option. And now the final thing is, if the Nets want to try to run this back, they have to reconcile with Kevin Durant.
I don't think that's possible. And if I'm being, bringing Kyrie back is one thing, because Kyrie got a very humble look at the market, and it was Russell Westbrook and some future picks. Like, the market for Kyrie was just not there. And I think he realized that, he wasn't going to get a long deal no matter where he went. No one was going to give him the extension he wanted. So his best bet is in Brooklyn. I don't think that's the same thing can be said for KD. I also think the Nets are asking entirely too much for KD. Even though he's top 5 when healthy. The when healthy is huge. And like you were saying, he's mid-30s, and he's a guy who is probably the best scorer you and I have seen, or definitely me. You had a little bit more time with Kobe than I did. But he's probably the best pure scorer that we've seen in the last 10, 15 seasons.
You're making me out to be really old, by the way. I didn't like that
well,
at all. You probably had some more time watching Kobe, you old-timer.
Okay, Kobe's not an old-timer move, but nevertheless, yeah, you get what I'm saying. All these teams had a chance to watch him with a star-heavy Brooklyn Nets team try and lead young guys, and it didn't work 3 times.
Well, if twice. You want to go out, first season he didn't play.
Okay, twice. if you want to go out and get KD, you're going to have to strip your roster to the point that it is KD and role players. And you just got two very clear looks as to why that's not going to work. So there's no reason for you to go out and try and find out. The Nets tested it. They found out. We know the answer. 4 first-round picks on top of that is absurd. You're leveraging the next 5, no, probably more than that, 6, 7 seasons of your team to get a guy who might have 1 or 2 good seasons left in him. Like, the Nets are just in outer space with that asking price.
And I'll tell you this. You think about the teams that are interested in Kevin Durant, right? They're relatively young. It came out the Warriors, which, by the way, if he went back to the Warriors, NBA Twitter would blow the freak up. That would be insane. But the Warriors have a really young core. Yeah, of course, but they're not going to do that.
Imagine getting like Wiseman back and having him.
They're not going to do that. They got Wiseman, Kuminga, Jordan Poole. Those guys can literally run the franchise for 10 years after Curry and Thompson are gone. You look at the Phoenix Suns. They don't want to give up the Mikal Bridges, the DeAndre Aytons, the Cam Johnsons, those young guys who are going to be there forever. Obviously, they were never even considering giving up Devin Booker.
I'd give up Ayton in a New York second. They're apparently willing. Aren't they looking to get them? Aren't they looking into Miles Turner?
Yeah, no, I know they're interested in giving up Ayton. I mean, it'd still be Ayton picks, and you'd probably have to give up Cam Johnson and or Mikal Bridges. But there's that.
Finish your list, but just in my opinion, they're the closest team that can say we're Kevin Durant away. You put Kevin Durant on that roster, they're instantly contending with Golden State in the West, like 1A, 1B. I don't think there's another team that's a Kevin Durant away from saying that.
Yeah, but the Suns and the Nets can't do a package straight up. They would have to get the Pacers involved. It'd have to be a 3-4 team trade.
Yeah.
I think those are the only – I mean, the Celtics are young, but the Celtics were never – like the Nets wanted Jaylen Brown. The Celtics were like, we're not trading Jaylen Brown. No shot. I think that's real. Oh, the Pelicans, but the Pelicans didn't want to give up Ingram. The Raptors, but the Raptors don't want to give up Scotty Barnes.
You give up Ingram. He's not on the team. Kevin Durant's still head and shoulders better than Brandon Ingram.
But it's not just Ingram. It's Ingram. It's Larry Nance. It's picks. Yeah. Like when I say this, it's one out of
4 first rounders is a big sticking point. It has to be. That's a ton.
But like that's what the Nets got themselves into. Sean Marks thought that he had a 20 in blackjack, and the dealer whips out a 21, and now he's getting caught with his pants down. He has no idea. What to do now. And I don't know. I mean, but like there's no trade out there that they like. And the more you drag this along in a training camp, the more that you're doing your team a disservice. And the Nets have not made a lot of moves. They could have signed JaVale McGee. They didn't. They couldn't because they didn't know what was going to happen with Kyrie and KD. I think the TJ Warren, Sumner, I think Edmund Sumner and Royce O'Neal acquisitions were fairly easy because that's a position where they lost Bruce Brown, right? They couldn't pay him. Dragic is gone. Obviously, he chose to sign elsewhere, so that creates a roster spot. And you were not great at that wing position, so that was like the one thing that you needed to fill. And ironically, KD said it's a wings league right before the Nets made those 3 moves for 3 wings. So very interesting. I do want to get to your Philadelphia 76ers a little bit. I saw you tweet. Was it something about giving up Maxey for Mitchell? And you were like,
what had happened was as soon as KD became available, Joel Embiid came right to management and basically said, you do whatever needs to get done to get him here. Which was implied that meant the untradeableness of Maxey was off the table. Like Maxey could now be dealt if only for KD.
Right.
The 2 teams didn't do anything, obviously, so that kind of sputtered out. But Sixers fans and basketball fans in general have a way of getting into playing 2K with their own franchise.
Oh, heck yeah.
They're like, okay, well, Tyrese Maxey's tradable now. Who can we go get?
Right.
And Donovan Mitchell came out and oh yeah, you do Maxey for Mitchell any day. I'm like, no, you absolutely you don't. You don't do that. One guy's already been paid. Maxey's still operating on his original deal, so you have way more cap flexibility. Also, it's Tyrese Maxey. He's 4 years younger. He's every bit as skilled. Like people just got obsessed with the idea of a blockbuster trade in Philly, but you don't give that guy up. He's your best point guard since Allen Iverson.
The Donovan Mitchell situation is weird because he's one of those guys where he's been in Utah so long, we kind of forgot about his value. And now
he's really good. Don't get me wrong.
He's really good. No, he is. But now he's in the trade market. It's like, well, he's not as good as Maxey, or you wouldn't trade Maxey for him, and you wouldn't trade RJ Barrett for him. But like, okay, like, so who would you trade for him? You know, like that. If I'm Utah, right? Like the Knicks have a package that tickles my fancy. Yeah. They got Emmanuel Quickly. They have Obi Toppin. They have Grimes isn't bad. They have these young guys. I don't think they would trade Mitchell Robinson. They just paid him. But they have these young guys not named RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, and not named Jalen Brunson that they can move. And if you're the New York Knicks, and you have a starting lineup of Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, and Julius Randle, who would probably have to be involved in the trade.
Oh, to get him, which I do. I put him in there.
Oh yeah, Knicks fans out of those three guys, Toppin, Randle, Quickly, they love Quickly the most, but you would trade Quickly in a hot minute if you knew you were getting back Donovan Mitchell. So a lot of people think, and now that the Jazz are starting to listen to trade inquiries again, that Mitchell to the Knicks is sort of a foregone conclusion. I think that's what Windhorst said. He said it's inevitable. But as far as the Sixers, I don't think you guys are really making any major moves at this point. You're going to run it back with Harden, Maxey, and Embiid as your three big guns. Is Toby staying?
Yeah, Toby's going to stick at this point. That was another issue I had with Sixers fans. Like, we think Tobias Harris is a scrub. I mean, if you look at his numbers on a really star-loaded team, he still averages about a little over 18 points, 8 boards a game. Like, he's still a huge difference maker on the court, being like the third or fourth option at times. So I think he gets a really bad rap. So he'll be back. The starting lineup's looking like Embiid, Maxey, Harris, probably Tucker, and Harden, which is a pretty solid starting five. Like, I'm pretty comfortable with that. And then you have DeAnthony Melton coming off the bench now. I'm actually excited about getting Daniel House. I think he's going to be I think he's going to take a lot of minutes away from guys like Korkmaz, like Shake, like guys we had to play. We now have guys like Daniel House. I think Trevelyan Queen, if Matisse doesn't come back this year, I think he can play the Matisse role really well. So I'm happy he's aboard. I just like the small moves in the offseason. We added a lot of athletic wings, a couple some guys that can shoot the ball. And we're not going to be forced in the Korkmaz and Shake Milton minutes anymore. You muted yourself, bud.
Better offseason so far, the Boston Celtics or the 76ers? It's close.
I think Boston, just by default, when you bring in a difference maker, that's going to trump. Like the Sixers made 4 really solid small moves, and I think that was the right offseason. But I think Boston got an awful lot better.
Yeah, Boston adds Gallinari and Malcolm Brogdon. Virtually gave away nothing. They gave away Aaron Naismith, I think his name is, who every time I saw him play, he was terrible. So good for Boston.
Gallinari can still ball. He gets forgotten about way too often. I mean,
yeah, he's a liability.
Whenever you play him, though, when your team plays him, he's so frustrating.
You. Yeah, no, he killed you guys.
Yeah,
he did. A lot of interesting things going on in the East. Did you have anything else on Sixers? We talked Knicks. We talked Sixers. We talked Nets. I think that's sort of it for the NBA. As far as the Goran Dragic stuff goes, that bothered me a little bit. You brought that up earlier. I really liked Dragic. I thought playoff-wise he was great. But yeah, sort of tough to see him sort of burn us on the way out. Final thing I'll say about the Brooklyn Nets.
Do you think it's burning you? Do you think? I mean, because I wouldn't have as much of an issue with it because, I mean, I know you don't think he's necessarily wrong. I definitely don't either.
But it's not a matter of being wrong. It's like there's a code. You don't talk like that about a former team. The year maybe a few years down the line, sure, but the next offseason, you're trashing the team that you went to war with? Come on, man.
Went to war. He's with you for what?
Come on, man.
He was there for 20 minutes.
Hold on. I want to talk about one of the longest tenured Nets right now, Ben Simmons.
That's absurd.
He was quoted, "Off-season has been great. Great chance to recover, rehab after surgery, and then we really locking in the gym, block out the noise, and get ready for next season." Ben Simmons was present at the Nets summer league games. A lot of the guys in the summer league team were really stoked that he showed up to support him. So a lot of good vibes, good juju with the Brooklyn Nets.
I'm sorry, dude. He just sucks. Like, he's the worst.
Do you understand if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving both somehow come back and play with Ben Simmons, the rest of the league is going to pee in their pants?
if that team comes back together healthy, it's going to be a really good team and healthy and functional.
Yes.
I just don't see a path to that happening.
I see it. I want to see it. I kind of see it. Okay. Maybe like 40% see it.
Okay, fair enough. Rapid
All right.
shift.
Yeah, let's move on to some football news. And
we're burying the lead here.
We are burying the lead. Zach Wilson, quarterback for the New York Jets, did not know he had that dog in him, is what everybody on Twitter is saying. Brandon, I think you know the story a little bit better than me. I know sort of the grainy, from a far lens, the details, the minutia. Why don't you get into this Zach Wilson, crazy situation that we've got going this last week?
Yeah, so just in the interest of time here, I'll hit you with the cliff notes and then we can kind of dissect it a little bit. But basically what happened is former BYU star quarterback Zach Wilson recently broke up with his somewhat longtime girlfriend. They had a couple years under their belt. And she immediately jumped to his former wide receiver / best friend. His last name's Milne. I forget his first name. He's a receiver for the Commanders now. And some fan commented under their like relationship launch post, like, God, I sound like one of those like Vogue things right now. It sucks. But they commented on one of those posts and just said homie hopper. And then she replied to that and she said, well, he's banging his mom's best friend, talk about homie hopping, trying to like throw shade at Zach Wilson. That's not how the internet works, especially the guys that watch football. He immediately became a legend overnight as being a confirmed like mom magnet, apparently. And he never came out to dispute the story. He posted something today that he had been away for a while and his phone was off. Obviously a joke. He's like, did I miss anything important? Knowing that he's a god now among football men. So that's kind of where the root, like the legend of Zach Wilson began, throwing bombs and banging moms.
This is I wanted you to sound like Vogue. That's why I didn't want to read the cliff notes. This is a win-win for good old Zachy boy. I thought it was pretty lame when Sam Darnold got mono. He's making out with too many chicks, got mono. This is a much cooler story than getting mono. And it's a win-win because if it's false, like, who cares? He didn't make it up, right? Like, his ex wrote on it. So, like, if it's false, who cares? He looks like a legend. And if it's true, like, he still looks like a legend. I just get confused because in the Mormon church, I feel like this is frowned upon.
That's why I always mention former BYU standout quarterback Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to do some research on the Mormon religion, but something tells me that
people.
Something tells me that Mormons giving it to your friend, your mom's friend, is not really okay, regardless of the church, temple, synagogue, mosque you're going to.
I will say, dude, if this comes out to be true, and then Zach balls this year, as much as I love BDN, Nick Foles, he's going to be right up in that air. If it's, if mom magnet Zach Wilson has a huge year dating someone's mom. Only thing that could be better is if he starts, hooking up with like another player's mom or like another quarterback's mom as like a power play.
Is there any famous moms out there? Oh, shoot. Yeah, there is. But Larissa Pippen, but I don't think she's going for Zach Wilson.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm trying to think who else is there. I'm missing someone. Someone has a very attractive mother.
I'm sure a bunch of them do.
Good thing my mom's happily married because, don't want her going after Zach Wilson.
Keep him out of Englewood.
Oh, man. That's a fun story. Nothing cool like that with Daniel Jones. I think he's been focused on football this offseason. What a lame nerd.
No, he's not. There is something interesting with Daniel Jones.
Hit me with it.
Somebody spotted him at either a pro or semi-pro cornhole league. I don't know how that makes you feel.
That's awesome, man. Is he still bad at quarterback?
I don't know, but he might be. If he makes like the pro tour, he'll be in the same sentence as Dion as playing 2 pro sports, including football. except one of them's cornhole.
We'll start to get into Giants football when we get closer to the NFL. We'll get into some Eagles football as well. Anything new with your boys over there in Philly?
No, man, it is all blue skies and rainbows over at the link. Everybody's getting along. There was some stupid story, and I love Derek Guns. I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but he came out and said that the Eagles were unsure about Jalen Hurts. They felt uneasy about his performance. He threw 3 picks and got sacked 3 times.
Was that real?
OTA. No,
was that real? Yeah.
He really said it. The sequence never happened because you can't hit in OTAs. You can't sack the quarter. I mean, come on, this is like basics. So That was debunked really quickly. But other than that, it's been smooth sailing over here.
Good for you guys. Good for you guys.
Things are quiet in Philly for the most part. It's nice.
Things are definitely not quiet in Brooklyn.
No, you said there was a rather loud rant about your New York baseball team you wanted to get into.
Yeah. So for those familiar with New York radio, there are 2 stations that sort of conquer everything sports. It's WFAN and the ESPN New York radio station. So the big show on ESPN New York, the night show is the drive time is 3 to 7, the Michael Kay show. And the host is Michael Kay. Michael Kay is also the voice of the Yankees. And then his co-hosts are Don LaGreca and Peter Rosenberg. Don is an older gentleman. He's been around. He worked for WFAN before he was with ESPN New York. And Don LaGreca is known for his amazing rants. They have a countdown, and basically it's how many days since Don LaGreca's last rant. So he had an amazing. Michael Kay was not there for this show, so it was just Don LaGreca and Peter Rosenberg. He was in an argument, and I want to give the whole back because I'm only going to play 2 minutes of it. He was in an argument with a Yankee fan about if Joey Gallo's hurting the team or not. His stance was he's not because the Yankees are winning. The fan called him moronic and said he's nothing without Michael Kay. This is how the rant went after that.
It's not hurting them. If he bats 0, the team is 40 games above 500. But you really think he's going to be on this team in the playoffs? Do you really believe he's going to be batting 160 and starting in the outfield and batting 6th for the Yankees in the postseason? Do you really think so?
So, Don, if they had a guy batting 300 in his spot, they'd be 25 games up. That's how he's hurting him.
Oh, my God. You think so? That's what you need to do. Look, stop with your Michael Kay. I'm on the air. I worked at the Fan before Michael Kay. I do Ranger games without Michael Kay. 16 years doing pre and post for the Jets. Guess what? No Michael Kay. I got a podcast that's in the top 50 in every country on the planet. No Michael Kay. I've got 2 kids. I've got a wife. 17 years. I'll be married during September. Guess what? No Michael Kay. I've got hair that people would die to have. Michael Kay, nothing. I'm a fabulous driver. Michael Kay's got nothing to do with it. I'm one of the best friends you could ever have in your life. 0 to do with Michael Kay. Do not ever say to me, you wouldn't have the guts to say it to my face. Michael Kay's got nothing to do with what I am and who I am. I could work with Michael Kay. I could work without Michael Kay. You better bring it. You ask me questions, I answer them. I ask you questions, you say, Don. That's what Cuber was saying when I was tripping on meth in 84.
What?
Play it, Don. Kept looking behind me, thought something was going on. I hate you.
One of, and I played it a little bit long. The beginning was kind of the context I already gave you, but one of the great rants in sports history. Shout out to Don LaGreca. Shout out to the Michael Kay Show. Don LaGreca, in my opinion, is the greatest radio personality of all time, and it's because of rants like that.
I think my favorite one is I have hair people would kill for, as if he had anything to do with that.
He's not wrong.
Right.
When I'm his age, to have a white mane of hair like that looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter, but with like white hair.
That's not a.
Come on, every guy wants that. Every guy wants to look like Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Not every woman wants that though.
What a way to
The
end
ones
this
I'm
podcast.
talking to, at
Was
least.
that a good rant? Like, rate that
It
on a
was.
scale of 1 to 10.
That's an 11 rant.
That was
The I hate you at the end really punctuates
that
it.
really, yeah. All right, Brandon, that's it for 2 hours, no traffic, brought to you by Sideline Sports. Thank you guys for listening to another episode. Tune in next week. And any final words?
No, we went over again. So sorry, guys, over at Sideline Sports. No rent money this month.